Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you Grotmas Day 16. After everybody else probably. I this is gonna be a long one because there is each of the Chaos Demon factions got their detachment. Not gonna lie, GW. I expected you to put them on their respective day. 6, 7, yada yada yada. Probably if you did want to double up with that Chaos faction, i.e., Death Guard and Nurgle on the same day. But, hey, didn't do that. Instead, we dropped 4, and they range in playability. I ordered them in what I think, worst to best. To kind of just, this is my take, I guess. I'm not a Demons player. I put that caveat out there too. I am, a little bit tempted by chaos every now and again though. So I wanted to pull up some data sheets that might be interesting with the new detachments as well. So we're going to do that. I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible, but as long as possible, I guess, at the same time by putting everything in one. I don't I didn't want to do the thing where I usually do, where per detachment I go through a bunch of data sheets that I feel would work here. I just picked out like 2 or 3 key ones for each one. So, without further ado, let's go to the fact that, hey, if you're new around here and wondering where everybody's getting these downloads to things to talk about, I've seen this question, so I'll keep talking about it in mine. Go Warhammer Community Downloads, and it will be here. It will also, moving forward, be down in Grotmas Detachments. Also, GW, if there's an employee watching this, what the fuck? You had Plague Legion, Blood Legion, Scintillating Legion, Legion of Excess. Like, come on now, you could have just made this Excess Legion or something. Like, why'd you fuck that? To make it stand out as the youngest one, I guess. I don't know. That mildly annoyed me. I shouldn't say like mildly, but I was just like, what the fuck? But starting with what is probably the worst one, Plague Legion. Um, Melancholic Miasma. While an enemy unit is within 9 inches of one or more Legion's Demonica Nurgle units from your army, that enemy unit is within your army Shadow of Chaos. In each player's command phase, select one enemy unit within your army Shadow of Chaos. That unit must take a Battle Shock test. Um, the fact that it's limited to one is probably my biggest thing onto, this could be a lot better, but you decided to stop at one. I will say if you made it every uh unit that is within the Shadow of Chaos, that'd be pretty broken, but I feel like you could have bumped that number up to, I don't know, another number. I just feel like one is pretty low. So that's problem number one. And problem number two, people will tell you it's Battle Shock. As a Tyrannage player, they're trying to make Battle Shock a thing again. A lot of the things they're doing is a step towards it. I think GW realized a little bit late into the game, where over a year and some. Where it's just like, if you're going to do something with Battle Shock, things have to happen. Nobody gives a fuck if the thing that they weren't going to use a stratagem on this phase is no longer using able to use a stratagem. OC is kind of big now, but beyond that, they have to learn. So I feel like this should have been something else. Maybe Battle Shock units inside of the Shadow of Chaos also -1 to hit. I don't know. It needed something else, in my opinion. For the enhancements, Canker Blight Aura, 15 points. Legion's Demonica Nurgle model only. Each time an enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles, is within 6 inches of the bearer fails a Battle Shock test, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, one model in that unit is destroyed, chosen by its controlling player. Each time the bearer uses this enhancement, no mortal wounds are inflicted by your army's demonic terror rule. So, I guess I should also point out that the army rule of steal the taking mortals for failing Battle Shock in the land of uh, Shadow of Chaos is still there. You don't get the better deep strikes and whatnot from demonic incursion, but still get the mortals and to heal yourself if you pass a battle shock test. So that's all right. I feel that GW really didn't know what to do with Nurgle because we've seen Nurgle list already stand on their own 2 feet for the Chaos Demons Index detachment. So they kind of just did fuck all, I guess. I don't know. I'm very confused by why they took it to a battle shock direction for Nurgle. I don't know. I feel like this was the easiest healing, I guess not healing. Maybe heal for you. Okay, that is Shadow Chaos. I don't know. There could have been more, but Cankerblight I don't have a problem with for 15 points. This is kind of what a lot of people want Battle Shock Mortal things to do. Um, it, there should be greater consequences, so I'm okay with this for 15 points. Maggot Maws for 15 points. Legion's Demonica Nurgle model only. In your shooting phase, select one enemy unit within 6 inches of the bearer. That enemy unit must take a Battle Shock test. Then roll 1d6 on a 3-up. The enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. Each time the bearer uses this enhancement, no mortal wounds are afflicted by your army's demonic terror rule. So it's kind of odd that they just say, hey, instead of d3 by possibly failing, you will take a guaranteed mortal wounds, even if you pass the Battle Shock test. I don't know. It just feels like this is another why. I think both of them are just whys to me. And I should also note that beyond not playing demons myself, I just also don't. I think I don't like Nurgle demons that much because it seems like everybody loves them, and I guess my inner hipster is just like, well, you could let it go. So I don't know. Maybe if there's another lore reason, don't get me wrong. If I had to convert to chaos, it'd probably be Nurgle out of all of them. But um, yeah, I don't know. It seems odd that this is the direction. Droning Shroud Aura, 35 points. Nurgle Monster. While a friendly Nurgle unit is within 6 inches of the bearer, that unit can only be targeted by a ranged attack if the attacking model is within 18 inches. 35 points is hefty, but it's kind of worth it. You get Bellacore at home, so that's fine. Font of Spores Aura, 20 points. Legion's Demonica Nurgle monster model only. While a friendly Legion's Demonica Nurgle unit is within 6 inches of the bearer, improve the AP characteristic of weapons equipped by models in that unit by 1. This is nice. It's actually really nice, given how many things have lethals and makes it easier for you to wound. So additional AP will be nice. Then we go to Seeping Virulence. Fight phase. 1 Nurgle Demon unit from your army that has not been selected to fight. Crits on 5s for 1 CP. A lot of them have lethal hits. This will be nice. Rot and Renewal. Your movement phase or your charge phase. Go through walls. I don't know why I said most. All of the Chaos Demon detachments have a go through walls now. That's cool. Fever Visions, your shooting phase or the fight phase. 1 Nurgle Demon unit that has not shot or fought until the end of the phase. Each time a model in your unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. After your unit has finished making its attacks, select 1 enemy unit hit by 1 or more of those attacks. That enemy unit must take a Battle Shock test. So, you become a Screamer Killer, Soul Cannon? Skull Cannon. What else? There's something else for Imperium that does it that I can't think of right now. But, yeah, that's, given what you're doing, this is fine. I prefer it. I prefer this versus something like Synaptic Nexus, where it's if they fail a Battle Shock test and they are within your, in this case, Shadow of Chaos, then spend a CP and then grenade, right? Instead, this is, hey, you get +1 to hit for your attack, and then they have to take a Battle Shock test. And if they fail that because it's your army rule, then it's some more immortals. So I enjoy this. This goes both. This either can finish off a squad or prime for a squad. So I enjoy this. Merc Shadows. Your movement phase. One Legion's Demonica Nurgle infantry unit from your army until the end of the phase. Each time your unit makes a normal move, add 5 to the move characteristic of models in your unit. For 1 CP, getting an additional 5 inches of movement is pretty nice. And that does not say that you can't advance or charge. I don't believe there's a Nurgle advance and charge unit, unless I'm completely blanking. But the fact that you still can do either or after this is really nice. That's really nice. Fetid. Oh man, my brain just took over on a different route there. Fetid Resurgence. Your command phase, one Legion's Demonica Nurgle unit from your army that is on the battlefield. Return up to 1 destroyed model to your unit or up to D3 destroyed models instead if your unit is a battle line unit, with their full wounds remaining. If it is a monster unit, 1 model in your unit regains up to D3 plus 1 lost wounds instead. 2 CP is very steep. Um, whew, they have to point it appropriately because you still have a Great Unclean one with a 6-up Feel No Pain aura doing that. So you can't just make it 1 CP by just balance decisions, right? But at the same time, 2 CP seems kind of fucked because there's not. Is there any CP generation in Nurgle? And I guess you're not tied to just Nurgle. I guess you can still try to bring. Oh wait, no, Kairos wouldn't affect you either because that's Zinch. No, yeah. I mean, if you target yourself with like fucking command reroll, I don't know. Either way, 2 is steep. I feel like there should be a way to make this cheaper. I think that would just make this a lot better. I don't know. I don't know. Plague of Woes. Your opponent's command phase before selecting any targets for the Melancholic Miasma Detachment rule. 1 Legion's Demonica Nurgle unit from your army until the end of the phase. After an enemy unit takes a battle shock test as a result of the detachment rule, select one other enemy unit within 9 inches of your unit. That unit must also take a battle shock test. That was a long, convoluted way to just say pick a second unit for your detachment rule. I don't know why we went through all of that. And I'll be honest, okay? I will be honest, and I know this is, I guess, the hot take. It does seem pretty not great for like Nurgle demons, or so for what probably Nurgle demon players would expect. And I'm not going to try to tell you that this is that good. I'm not. I'm just as somebody that plays with Battleshock shenanigans, this is something that I would like, and there's probably this is the dread talents of the Chaos Demon detachments, which, that's not the most competitive one, but between that and people are really writing off Chaos Knights. I know that we haven't had to be scared of them for over a year now, but when you have a lot of things that compound the fact of Battle Shock Test, yeah, it'll get stupid when you're going against fucking Space Marines with their Leadership 6. Who gives a fuck? Or if you're going against me with Synapse range and I have 3d6 to make up my fucking leadership test. So there are things that hard kind of counter this. And kind of spoiler, there is a strat in. Fuck, I'm pretty sure it was. Actually, there's 2 strats now that I think about it. There's one in Zinch and there's one in Slaanesh that I feel if they were in here would make this significantly better. And even then, it's just like you went for Battle Shock. There needs to be more you take Battle Shock, I guess, so you could trigger your own healing out of this detachment. But for what this detachment does now, I have a couple of picks on things that, if you want to try this out, might be nice. First, I think you take Velicor here. I know you're probably tired of taking Be'lakor, but you probably own Be'lakor at this point, I guess. Um, you can either double up on the can't be attacked outside of 18 inches, or you can trigger more Battle Shock test. Um, there we go. In the Battle Shock test step of your opponent's command phase, if an enemy unit is below starting within 6 inches, must take a Battle Shock test. Yada yada yada. I feel like you probably want Be'lakor here somehow, some way, and you are extending your own Shadow of Chaos. Yeah, it's kind of odd how they made an entire detachment Be'lakor Light for Nurgle that I didn't really think about before I said that right now. So yeah, I think you would just be bolstered by taking Be'lakor. But if you don't want to take Be'lakor, I think a Demon Prince with wings will be better just because each time this model is selected to fight, select one of the following abilities. Until the end of phase, this model's Hellforged weapons have this ability. Lethal hits, precision, or sustained hits 1. Nurgle takes you to a toughness 10, flying, deep striking monster that is putting out the Shadow of Chaos 9 inches, and with ACP, you are a Nurgle demon getting crits on 5s. I think that's nice. Think it could be. I think it could be something if you're going to go for this detachment. I think most of my hesitation is the fact that this detachment is really going to have to show up in the fact of, do you on your own stat sheets have enough durability without that 4 up, feel no pain aura that you were kind of used to out mortal wound and battle shock test your enemy. That's kind of what's going on here. So maybe just for a different beat stick, while everything else is slowly marching up, you take Demon Prince with wings, go to T10, 2 up, 4 up, 10, with probably sustains for the round, or if you just want to be completely immersed in the rest of the army, lethal hits. Then, I'll be honest, I think it's time to bring out Horticulus Slimux. Stop stop throwing tomatoes. I'm kind of serious. At T10, 3 up save, 4 up infos, and 10 wounds, you'll go, but Horticulus doesn't do jack shit when it comes to um Battle Shock test. And you would be correct. However, with Beast Handler, while this model is leading a unit, you can re-roll charge rolls made for that unit in addition once per battle. Heroic intervention for free, even if somebody else did it, and you are spreading Shadow of Chaos in terrain features until the end of the battle. If you like, at the end of your movement phase, the Beast of Nurgle gets to come all the way back if you don't take one out, and if you do, because they are Beast of Nurgle, you still have the option of, again, it is steep, Fed Resurgence though, return one destroyed model to your unit and then make it that they have to do it all again. You still have your crits on 5s option over here, +1 to hit if you feel you need it for the beast. Or actually for Horticulus, I could have sworn you hit on 3 and 2. My bad. But yeah, 4 and 3. I think I think it's time to give Horticulus Slimux another look. So, all in all, I understand that this detachment isn't great. But at the same time, I don't think I'd be surprised if somebody just finds out something really fucking annoying to do with it. And maybe not tops a GT. Like, I could be this seeing a solid 4 and 1. Actually, hey, I do think anything could, if you play it right, or if the right person plays it right, can win a GT. So maybe it actually does get to the GT topper. I don't know. I think there's play. Not a lot of it, but there's something. Going over to the one that I think is the next best, which is a bit of a roller coaster of emotions, which is, I guess, is appropriate for Zinch. I read it. I read the detachment rule. I was like, that's fucking stupid. That's bad. And then I read the rest of the detachment. I was like, wait, this is fucking amazing. And then I remembered what data sheet you're playing. And then I was kind of in the middle. I feel I feel if you take a very specific list, more so than what I just said about Nurgle, this will be unbearable for some people. I think some armies will not have the capacity to handle some of this shit. And then on the flip side, some things really will. Fates and Flux. You start the battle with 3 Flux tokens. We recommend using a dice to track how many Flux tokens you have. I recommend poker chips, probably. You can spend 1 Flux token just after an advance roll, hit roll, wound roll, damage roll, saving throw, or hazardous test made for a Legion's Demonica model or Legion's Demonica unit from your army to re-roll the results of that roll, throw, or test. Flux tokens can be spent to enhance the effect of some stratagems. Each time you spend a Flux token, reduce the number of Flux tokens you have by 1, and your opponent gains 1. Whenever your opponent has 1 or more Flux tokens, they can spend 1 Flux token after an advance roll, a hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw is made for a model or unit for their army, to re-roll the result of that roll or throw. If they do, reduce the number of Flux tokens they have by 1 and you gain 1. This is ignored if your opponent has the Fates and Flux detachment rule. So if you are in the mirror match, ignore this. In your command phase, if your opponent has 1 or more Flux tokens, you gain 1 Flux token. Designer's note. When using fast dice rolling, this rule can be used to spend any number of Flux tokens up to the amount you have to re-roll a number of dice up to the amount spent after rolling multiple rolls or saving throws at once. This is kind of huge. Um, where do I start? I'm sorry, I don't know how that came across the mic. I think that might have blown your ears out. I'm sorry. I this is this is it sounds rough. It sounds very rough, but at the same time, I feel they could have just they didn't have to put so many fucking words, I'll tell you that much. The detachment rule itself sounds rough because you have flamers, you have blast. You really don't find that you need a lot of rerolls. You don't really want to advance. Again, you have flamers, so you don't really need too many hits. It's a very it'd be interesting in other armies. Like, and that's the downside of this, into which if you play against okay, that's what army doesn't have rerolls right now, like that. If you, for example, okay, pre-Nerf Sisters, and by Nerf Sisters I mean like 3 days ago, whatever the fuck this slate came out. If you were playing something like Army of Faith, giving them this on top of that is insane, right? So you don't want to do that. Now, if you are playing something like, okay, I was gonna go really low and say Imperial Agents, but let me be serious for a second. If you give this to, ooh, who do you give this to? That this isn't that big. And yes, I know you're like, Monster, the fact that it's taking you this long, that should tell you everything you need to know. Give me a second, okay? There are some that this just won't be too egregious against. Something like AdMech. Or what's something more competitive than AdMech right now that this wouldn't be too bad against? Yeah, you know what? I'll stick with AdMech right now, just because that's the best one I could think of, and I don't want to keep dragging this out. If you get this to something like AdMech, it also doesn't do much for them because they're also paper thin, and whatever rerolls they wanted, they already have. Nobody gives a fuck if you give this to AdMech. You give this to shit like Sisters Eldari, Tau, Custodes. Like, this makes all of your bad matchups worse and all of your good matchups better. For kind of no reason on the detachment rule alone. Getting into the rest of the shit is where they try to save your ass. Inescapable Eye. Zinch model only. In your command phase, if the bear is on the battlefield, if your opponent has one or more flux tokens, you gain one additional flux token. Cool. Infernal Puppeteer, 10 points. Zinch Monster model only. Each time the bear is selected to shoot, you can select one other friendly Zinch Demon within 9 inches of the bearer. If you do, when selecting targets for ranged weapons equipped by the bearer, you can measure range and determine visibility from one model of your choice in the selected unit instead. Sorry I slowed down there. I've read this before, but I just had a nasty idea. When I first read this, um, I was like, well, hold on. Blue horrors have infiltrate. So for 10 points, you have a mean alpha strike. Yeah. An indirect fire from infiltrated blue horrors. That's a little bit better than I originally thought because I missed something on on the first two reads. But even if it's not indirect fire, there's some pretty decent ranges on some of them, so that's nice. Neverblade, 20 points. Zinch Monster model only. Improve the strength characteristic of melee weapons equipped by the bearer by 2. Improve the attacks and AP characteristics of melee weapons equipped by the bearer by 1. And each time the bearer makes a melee attack, add 1 to the hit roll. They said, we heard that your Lord of Change doesn't hit for shit in the fucking in melee. So here's a chance, and I don't think it's worth the chance so far. I don't think you need 20 points to try to make it a melee monster. You have other things that, oh no, I feel like you don't need to. Coming up, Improbable Shield Aura, 30 points. Zinch model only, while a friendly Zinch unit is within 6 inches of the bear. Models in that unit have 4 upfield no pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. 30 points is way too steep for me to give a fuck about this, if I'm being honest. Going on to the stratagems. Impossible Eclipse. Any phase. One Zinch monster model from your army that is on the battlefield. Select no man's land or your opponent's deployment zone, or spend one flux token and select both. Both. Until the end of the phase, the selected areas of the battlefield are within your army's shadow of chaos. This is what I feel needed to be with Nurgle. For this would have been with Nurgle, and then I would not care. But for what it is now, I don't know why it's here. Like, don't get me wrong, flavor wise, dope as fuck, right? But if you change this to like Plague Planet Garden, the Great Garden, Expanding Garden, or some shit like that, this would make the what is it, Plague Legion so much better. Um, But the fact that it's here kind of throws me for a loop. Fateborn Nightmares is to go through walls over here. Pyrogenesis for 2 points, 2 CP, excuse me. Your shooting phase or the fight phase, a Zinch unit from your army that is not shot or fought. Until the end of the phase, add 2 to the strength characteristic of weapons equipped by models in your unit, or spend 1 flex token and add 3 to those weapons and improve the AP by 1. For 2 CP, it's pretty steep, and I don't know what position you will be in to really, really need this. However, if I'm not spending a CP here, and you might, but probably don't need to here either, maybe I have it for this. Maybe with Kairos it doesn't feel as bad, but I don't really understand how often I would need this, and for 2 CP at that. Like, I get the 2 CP stretch. I was supposed to be like, well, that's the point. You don't need them often. But it doesn't give me enough of a boom that I can justify myself spending 2 CP just for that effect. Fickle Fire. Your shooting phase. One Zinch unit from your army that is within engagement range of one or more enemy units. I love these strats. Until the end of the phase, enemy units are not considered to be within engagement range of your unit for the purposes of selecting targets for and resolving attacks with ranged weapons. Until the end of the phase, each time an enemy model is destroyed while its unit is within engagement range of your unit, roll 1d6 on a 5 up. Your unit suffers one mortal wound after the attacking unit has finished making its attacks. Now, I said this for Worthless Chattel in the Chaos Knights video. However, this becomes significantly better. I think, actually, yes, okay, good. Had to double check. So, you target the Zinch unit, the Zinch demon, that is within engagement range. You don't have to target the thing that is shooting in. So, your blue horrors, your pink horrors that are within engagement range tying up the enemy, everything can shoot in, including blast weapons. So I said this for Worthless Chattel. You could take Kairos and put blast into the unit until they fix that. But it says not considered to be within engagement range. So that means you can now use blast weapons as they are written right now. So on the flip side, if you want to take a Despoiler or a Devastator, now you can fire into this for kinda for free. And I guess to that point, it is important to note that if you try to bring allies, it's you don't really get to use Fates and Flux for it, which is unfortunate, but probably well deserved. Flickering Reality. Fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. This is fucking banger. One Legion's Demonica Zinch unit from your army that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Roll 1d6, then you can spend one flux token to re-roll the result. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit, on an unmodified hit roll, after any re-roll of that result, the attack sequence ends even if the original hit roll would have been a critical hit. Example, if you roll a 2 and choose to spend one flux token to reroll the result, and the reroll is 6, then until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit, on an unmodified hit roll of 6, the attack sequence ends. That attack fails to hit, and no critical hit effects are resolved. This is pretty fucking nice. I like it. I really like it. And I think this one is the I don't want to say the opposite direction, but ironically kind of contrasting to Nurgle, where I don't think you do this for your shit like your pink horrors, your blue horrors. This is a this defensive strat. Somebody finally hits your Lord of Change, and your Lord of Change that was already apparently a melee monster gets to survive a bit more and make some clapbacks. I think to make this even more appealing, in hindsight, they want you to just spam Lords of Change more so than any of the other smaller units. Which is, it is what it is. If you bring Kairos, 2, 3 Lords of Change, some Demon Princes, I think now the army becomes a bit more, oh, I see why they did this, as opposed to you bringing Flux Caster, Change Master, whatever the fuck their names are, attached to a bunch of horrors and the blue scribes and wondering what went wrong, right? I think that's where we're going for this. Delirium Unmade, end of your opponent's fight phase. This is also massive. One Legion's Demonica is each unit from your army that is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units. Alternatively, you can spend one Flux token when you use this stratagem and target up to 2 Tzeentch units from your army. Instead, including those within engagement range of one or more enemy units, remove your units from the battlefield and place them into strat reserves. This doesn't even say you have to come down in the next phase. This is fucking massive. I think this is why it's the second weakest one for me, more so than the second best out of the Demons ones, because this tells me if you bring the big things and do Monster Mash even more so, you will have a better time. The other ones that are coming up, I feel there's a bit more flexibility on what you're bringing, and that will make a better list. For Plague Legion, yeah, there's a mix, but it's asking you to do Battle Shock. For Scintillating Legion, it is asking you to do things that Tzeentch units typically don't want to do, like being very close to your opponent. So, and bringing things that can stack up in melee. Now, unless I'm completely off base and there's some secret melee sauce I don't know about, I think this is telling you, hey, just bring Lords of Change and act like this is Space Marines 2, where they are a very big threat. Um, but yeah, I like it. I like it. It's difficult because of the Fates and Flux giving so much to your opponent. I feel there needs to be a higher cost. Like if your opponent spent 2 Flux tokens to do one of the effects, I'd appreciate it more. However, it's the fact that it really just doubles down on some of your matchups is what takes it away from me. I I want to like it more, but on the scale so far for me, it it's good. Don't get me wrong, it's good, but I think it really, well, yeah, it really throws things into flux. Now for the units that I think you might want to look at. First up, a Soul Grinder, because with this, you going over to Tzeentch, you get Warp Gaze for Blast, 48 inches. I already told you about the whole Fickle Fire. And also, the fact that it's on a 4 up is pretty nice. Excuse me, a 5 up is pretty nice. It doesn't automatically just give you the wounds. It's like, hey, you just don't exist here. So, a 48-inch blast weapon that hits for d6 plus 2, strength 12 minus 2 is pretty nice. Also, you have decent melee weapons. And guess what we're doing in this one now? We're in melee. We're either not getting hit by things or we are in combat and then getting out of combat with our deep strike. This lets you go through walls more so than your own ability. Hell, maybe this is where you do spend 2 CP because you have enough attacks for things like that. I I think a Soul Grinder is where you go for on this one. Looks pretty nice. Also, Changeling. Like, no shit, Changeling. Each time an enemy unit wishes to select this model as the target of an attack, that unit must take a Battle Shock test. If that test is failed, in addition to being Battle Shock, that enemy unit cannot target this model this phase. Whatever phase it is that they're trying to do something to the Changeling. Also, Mischief and Confusion. At the start of your opponent's shooting phase, select one enemy unit within 12 inches of and visible to this model, and roll 1d6 on a 2 through 5 until the end of phase. Each time a model in that enemy unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. On a 6, they can't shoot this phase at all. You put that in combination with Flickering Reality, it's just going to be annoying as hell for your opponent to tie some shit down, then Delirium Unmade. If you could bring more changelings, this would be amazing. But I guess while I've glazed the Lord of Change so much, there is the stats. It is still a T10 4-up invuln, 18 wound monster that has an attack profile for melee, But this is where I'm wondering why they took it this route. I guess nothing's stopping you from still just on the flip side going and bringing a couple of walking demon princes and making them all Zinch, giving them more attacks to their infernal cannon, and I mean that's whatever. Maybe more to the melee while giving stealth and not being able to be hit at ranged, and then doing once again the flickering reality. Something like that. Who knows? Maybe you bring the flying one. I really want to like this detachment a bit more. It is very flavorful. It's very flavorful, but the data sheets are holding it back from what it wants to do, which is odd. But hey, odd fits themes. Then we go on to Blood Legion. I don't understand why I'm not hearing more about this. The detachment role is Murder Call. Each time an enemy unit, excluding aircraft, ends a normal or advanced move within 6 inches of one or more Khorne units from your army, or one of those Khorne units can make a surge move towards that enemy. To do so, roll 1d6. Models in your unit move a number of inches up to this result, but your unit must end that move as close as possible to that enemy unit. When doing so, can be moved within engagement range of the enemy unit. A unit cannot make a surge move if it is already there in engagement range. Blood Tainted. At the end of a phase in which a Legion's Demonica Khorne unit from your army destroyed an enemy unit that is within range of an objective marker at the start of the phase, if your unit has a higher level of control over that objective marker, you sticky it. This is nice. This will get you control over things because you want to keep going forward. This will get you forward. It's nice. I think early impressions are both right and wrong about this because I have seen a few. I shouldn't say right or wrong. I will say this will be very toss up heavy because like Nurgle, we've seen Khorne Demon List actually do a lot of work without having access to things like this. On the flip side, they had things like a better Deep Strike to possibly get some charges that would be easier for the situation. You don't have that here. However, when you still have the fact that you are demons and can deep strike in places, if you are 9 inches away for your deep strike, you just your opponent never moves, and that's the counterplay that I'm kind of hearing. It's like, no, your opponent still has to move, and you still deep strike in places, right? Like I don't really get too much of that one. Yeah, you don't have the better deep strike, but you still have deep strike on your data sheet. So, this is going to catch people off guard. When you have a bunch of deep striking world eaters, I know that's kind of low brow for me to just immediately call it that, but fuck, I don't think we're understanding that this is a lot of mobility that gets scary. Then we go to the enhancement. Slaughterthirst Aura for 35 points. While the friendly Legion's Demonica Khorne unit, excluding monsters, is within 6 inches of the bearer, weapons equipped by models in that unit have the Lance ability. Nice. We likes it. We wants it. Fury's Cage, 20 points. Khorne monster model only. Each time the bearer is selected to fight, it can use this enhancement. If it does, the bearer suffers D3 plus 1 mortal wounds, and until the end of the phase, each time it makes an attack, you can reroll the hit roll and you can reroll the wound roll. 20 points. Slap it on a Bloodthirster. Let them go to town for D3 plus 1 on the mortal wounds. You have a possibility of regenerating that if you take a Battle Shock test. And well, if you are taking mortal wounds, you are then going to be in positions where you need to take battle shock tests. So it works itself out. I think that's an auto take. Brazen Maw, 15 points. Add 2 to charge rolls made for the bear's unit. Khorne model, also probably an auto take. Gateway unto Damnation for 10 points, core and monster model only. The bear's deadly demise ability inflicts mortal wounds on a d6 roll of 2 up instead of a 6. In addition, if the bear has destroyed one or more enemy units this battle, the bear has the deadly demise d3 plus 3 ability instead of any deadly demise ability on its datasheet. I think that's cool. Don't think that it's that needed. Had that been on Fury's Cage, that'd been cool, or had it not been restricted to monsters, this would be cool. I think if it just gave a unit Deadly Demise D3, or gave models in the unit Deadly Demise D3 plus 3, don't get me wrong, that would be insane. But it's okay. It's really, again, flavorful. That's fine. We take that for 10 points. If you just have 10 points left over, why not? But I feel these are such auto take that it would be hard for you to be finding 10 more points. But hey, going on to the stretch. Wrath Undeniable. Fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its target. One Corn unit from your army that is the target as one of those attacks. Until the end of phase, each time a model in your unit is destroyed by a melee attack, roll 1d6, 4 up, fight on death. Do not remove, it can fight, yada yada yada. Good. Fight on death for Corn? Makes sense. Blood Begets Skulls. Your charge phase. One Corn unit from your army that has not been selected to charge this phase. Until the end of phase, your unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced. Advance in charge for Corn. Pretty scary. The fact that it says your charge phase. Even scarier. Because it doesn't say your movement phase where it's like, hey, after making an advance, you might be able to charge. It's like, hey, it's the charge phase. Did you make enough of an advance? Did they have a reactive move? Yeah, okay. Gore Hungry Onslaught. Your movement phase or your charge phase. One Corn unit from your army each time can go through walls. Kool-Aid Man, really good for Corn, and it's Corn unit, so there's something that we gotta talk about there too. Foolish Flight, 2 CP, oh Scarbrand. Your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit falls back. One Legion's Demonica Corn unit from your army that is within 6 inches of the enemy unit and would be eligible to declare a charge against that enemy unit. Your unit now declares a charge that targets only that enemy unit, and you resolve that charge. Note that even if that charge is successful, you don't get any charge bonus this turn. Okay, cool. Skulls beget blood. Your shooting phase, one Legion's Demonica, Corn infantry, or mounted unit that is not within engagement of any enemy units. Select one enemy unit that is not within engagement range of one or more units from your army and is within 8 inches of and visible to your unit. Roll 6d6 for each 4 up that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. You get grenades. That's fine because you have like no range except for probably, in my opinion, one of the best range for its points in Demons, which is the Skull Cannon. So gives you some additional shoot, oh, additional range, I guess, not shooting. Sheathed in Brass. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. One Legion's Demonica Corn unit that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Until the end of phase, models in your unit has a 3-up save. This is nice to... It's a 3-up save. It would be better if this was a 3-up invulnerable, but that'd be probably fucking insane, if we're being honest. But it's to soften the blow, and then later you have the fact that if anybody, well, first I should say, they moved, you surged, they thought it was sweet, you gave yourself a 3-up, and now you're just insufferable, right? Or your opponent's opponent's movement phase, they moved around you, you surged, declared a charge. It's the movement shenanigans in this are insane. And I think that's what people aren't necessarily realizing quite yet, and that movement is a very big thing in 40k. And when you give things that like melee this much movement, and then shit like Lance, yeah, this will be something. I will say though, they have probably the largest footprints outside of literally Rodigus and Great Unclean Ones, where you will be in situations with your Mounted and Bloodthirster and Scarbrand that all of this kind of works itself out. But for the other things like Bloodletters, this is insane. This is absolutely insane. I love the design. I guess I have to ask my friend who plays Corn Demons, or I guess Corn, because they are more World Eaters. What this looks like. Going on to data sheets that I think will help them. Walking Prince of Chaos to give stealth on a 3-up too. Yeah, stealth with a 3-up. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nice. That's pretty nice. That's really nice. So their stealth. Once per battle at the start of any phase, this model can use this ability. If it does until the end of the phase, this model has a 3-up invulnerable save. Don't really care about that one too much, but like I said, if the 3-up was an invulnerable save, that'd be even better. So stealth, 3-up save, gives you quite a bit of durability for you to do more movement shenanigans. Going on to the next one. Skullmaster, and we'll just skip ahead. Blood Crushers. You're bringing these. No shit, you're bringing these, but I did want to point out that Skullmaster's Fury, while this model is leading the unit, each time this unit ends a charge move until the end of the turn, Juggernaut's Bladed Horns get death wounds, and when this model's unit ends a charge move, each enemy unit within engagement range must take a Battle Shock test, and Blood Crushers, each time this unit ends a charge move, select one enemy unit within engagement range of this unit and roll 1d6 for each model in this unit. Each 4-up, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. It is each model in this unit, not in engagement range. So, really simple. Foolish Flight, this is where you're spending 2 CP, if possible, to just keep this going. And then they have to take a Battle Shock test. Yeah, you don't have fights first, but they've taken mortal wounds, a Battle Shock test, devastating wounds, while they thought they were safe on their turn. Right? Like that's a little bit egregious. And sure, fuck it. Let's just assume that you had another CP in the bank for fights on death. Uh, oof, oof. That hurts. That hurts. That hurts. 4-up invulnerable save. Then we go to Legion of Excess. Sorry, I'm tacking this on. Had to stop and start the recording and do something real quick. But for Legion of Excess, um, it's cranked to hell and back. Kind of. There is like one restriction, but fuck, this is good. Beguiling Aura. Legion's Demonica Slanesh units from your army are eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which they fell back. Seductive Gambit. Slanesh units from your army have the following ability. Each time this unit ends a charge move, you can declare if it will perform a Seductive Gambit. If you do until the end of the turn, this unit does not have fights first, but instead, each time a model in this unit makes an attack, you can reroll the hit roll and you can reroll the wound roll. Given how much devastating wounds and bullshit there are for Slanesh models, this is really good. Like, really good. False Majesty. 30 points, auto take. I'm telling you this now. Slanesh model only. While a friendly Slanesh unit, excluding monsters, is within 6 inches of the bearer, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to the wound roll. Yes. Dreaming Crown. 30 points. Same restrictions, plus 1 to hit for melee. Cool. You're starting your list down at 90-40. You're taking these. Avatar of Perfection, 15 points. Slanesh monster model only. At the start of each phase, if there are no other friendly units within 6 inches of the bearer, you can re-roll advance rolls made for the bearer, re-roll charge rolls made for the bearer, ignore mods to move or advance the charge rolls. That whole shebang. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. Auto take, no. Hard to manage, probably. Because it's kind of easy to find yourself within 6 inches of your own models, but outside of 6 inches might get a little bit tougher. So don't start cheating, basically. Don't accidentally be like, well, I was actually at 6.1. Like, you can manage it, but if you're taking shit like Seekers and large demon, well, not large, but like several demonettes, and it'll be hard to always get value. Then we go to Soul Glutton. Less of an auto take, probably still an auto. Nah, maybe. But really good. 10 points, Slanesh monster model only. At the end of the fight phase, if one or more enemy models were destroyed this phase as a result of one or more of the bear's attacks, it can use this enhancement. If it does, it regains up to D3 lost wounds. It's already, if you take the. Oh, wait, no, that was the enhancement. Shining Aegis. Or was it Ritual Blade? Whatever. This is nice to have on a keeper. For 10 points, not mad at it. Thieves of Pain is cracked to all hell and back. Glad that they said excluding monsters, because that would be insane. But any phase just after an attack or mortal wound is allocated to a model in the Slanesh unit from your army, excluding monsters, that Slanesh unit, select one other friendly Legion's Demonica Slanesh unit from your, within a foot of that unit until the end of the phase. While the selected unit is on the battlefield, each time a model in your unit would lose a wound, inflict one mortal wound on the selected unit instead. Throw your wounds that you would put on something somewhere else. Really, really good considering what you can do this with. Phantasmal Longing, go through walls like the other ones had. Nice. Arch Agonist, fight phase. Demon, sorry, goodness. Slanesh monster, or two non-Slanesh monsters. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in one of those units makes an attack, +1 to wound. Pretty good when you're getting rerolls to hits and wound. For 2 CP, that's worth it. That is worth it. Cavalcade of Blades, your charge phase just after a Slanesh unit ends your charge. That Slanesh unit, select one enemy unit within engagement range of your unit, then roll 1d6 for each model in your unit that is within engagement range of that enemy unit, or roll 6d6 if it is a monster. For each 4-up, 1 mortal wound. Important to note, this does not have this maxes out at 6 mortal wounds that usually these strats have. No, if you get all of your demonettes into a unit and their leader, you get to roll as many fucking dice as you want. Well, of course, as many as there are. And then that's mortal wounds galore. Alright, nice. Sensory Excruciation, your command phase. One Slanesh monster from your army that is on the battlefield. Each unit on the battlefield that is within your army Shadow of Chaos must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from the test if they are below half strength. Yeah, just mini Shadow in the Warp. Not like it takes me a once per game thing to do that. And I need to bring a 105, Neurotyrant to make the -1. Well, okay, technically I don't anymore. But, just Shadow in the Warp for the Shadow of Chaos. Excuse me, what? Oh, and also, designer's note, it does point out this is for both you and your opponent, so maybe you want to get some heals off by passing some tests? Alright, go ahead. This is cranked to hell and back for 1 CP in your command phase. It always happens in your deployment zone. And it might happen in No Man's Land if you control 2. Or more, I guess, or over half, technically, because of shit like the ritual. And if you somehow command your opponents, DZ, 1 CP for something is my army rule. It's crazy. But hey. Overwhelming Excess. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 Slanesh unit. Doesn't say excluding monsters. From your army that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks, the attacking unit must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from the result. If the test is passed, -1 to hit. If the test is failed, in addition to being battle shocked, until the end of the phase, the attacking unit cannot select your unit as the target of any attacks. That unit can select new targets, though. Mini changeling for something like Shalaxi. Hmm. 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 Okay. Changeling as a CP. Shadow in the Warp as a CP. Non-cap tank shot. Okay. Okay. +1 to wound. Okay. Throw your wounds somewhere else. Alright. Go through walls. This is fucking great. If this doesn't single-handedly bring up the Chaos Demons tournament wins, because they're already at a decent win rate right now, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. I don't know. Because what the fuck do you mean Slanesh just fucking wins? This is why it wasn't like Excess Legion, Pleasure Legion. No. Legion of Excess, because this shit is excessively cranked. Okay? Now let's talk about just two that I think are going to be nice. You haven't seen the Inferno and Rapturous for like ever, but while this model is leading the unit in your command phase, you can return D3 destroyed bodyguard models to that unit. It goes with Daemonettes. Don't really worry about this one. But, you know, spend a CP. These are tucked behind a wall within a foot of where your Slanesh unit is. And you just throw the wounds. And each time you would lose a wound, right? So you still get to make the saves. You make the saves. And then maybe only take three wounds. That's 3 Demonettes dead. And then with Inferno and Rapturous, that could be 3 wounds that just never happened. Because you get to bring back Demonettes with the Inferno and Rapturous. Maybe bring 2 units of these just to do that. Alright. And then the last one. Torment Bringer on Exalted Secret Chariot. While a friendly Slanesh demon unit is within 6 inches of this model, melee weapons in that unit have sustained hits 1. Again, doesn't exclude monsters. Sustained hits 1 within 6 inches of this. It's a character, so you can, you know, throw on +1 to wound or +1 to hit. Get the rerolls. Okay. And then once per fight phase, just after an enemy unit selects a Slanesh Legion's demon unit from your army that is selected as a target, one friendly Psyker that is within 6 inches of that Slanesh unit and has this ability can use it. If it does, until the end of phase, each time a model in that Slanesh unit is destroyed, roll 1d6 on a 4-up, do not remove it, fight on death. Uh-huh. Okay. Alright. Okay. This is cranked to fucking hell. 15 attacks, death wounds, possibly getting sustained out of that. +1 to hit, possibly re-rolling, extra attacks, lethal hits. Okay. Okay, GW. I get it, you want to sell more of the stuff before Emperor's Children comes out, and even when they do. I already thought that Slanesh looked cool. But fuck. Now I understand why people dedicate themselves to getting solo Chaos Demon armies outside of Age of Sigmar. Fuck, this is good. And I can't wait to see it. And it's kind of funny that this is the one that I have to tack on to the rest of the recording. Because it does just stand above the rest. So yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment from me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.